Hi everybody, I'm Deb Watson. I'm glad you're here today. I am the owner of Business Marketplace. We are a web development, marketing, consulting, and graphic design company here in the area. We've been here for 2 whole years now, but I've had this company for over 20 years. And everything we do is focused on helping small to medium-sized companies be able to get more business, more effectiveness out of their marketing. So today we're talking about the expo that we're having in November. How many of you have ever exhibited at an expo before? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And you guys have, I'm assuming, from the chamber? Okay. So a fair number of you have done so. How effective did you find it to be for you? Raise your hands if you thought, oh, this was great. 1, 2,
It's a half.
and a 50-50.
No, I mean, well,
One of the things I have found about expos is that people, too often, tend to wing it. They sit there and say, like the other day I talked with Caroline and she said, okay, we got the information, there's going to be a 6-foot table. Hi there. We'll get your introduction later. But if you would sign in and get a name tag right there on the corner, that'd be great. That'll work. Oh, Janice. Hi. Too many people will sit there and say, okay, we have a 6-foot table and 2 chairs. So they'll put their table out there. If it has a tablecloth on it, nifty. If they don't, maybe they'll bring one. And they put some stuff flat on the table, and they sit there. And they wait for people to walk by. Is that about what you guys are used to doing? No? Good. Because that is exactly what you should not be doing. Now, I will also tell you, I got a piece of information yesterday that I think she could tell by my voice. It was like, are you kidding me? We cannot put anything, affix anything to the walls here at WinMock, which I've never had to do a trade show, where you can't put something up there. So we have to get a little more creative, because the reality is, if we just have people sitting behind a table with stuff lying flat on their table, you're not going to get squat. You're really going to be disappointed. The trick is to plan ahead for what you want to achieve and what you're going to do with that space. So first and foremost, if let's say you were all going to sit there for your business and have a booth, you need to know, what are your goals? What would be your goal? You've had one before.
A lot of it depends on the audience. Who's
Okay.
coming?
Okay.
You know,
You have the garden center thing, right?
yeah, that's coaching and counseling, and then the Forever.
That's
Life-
what counseling?
That's coaching, life coaching.
Ah, okay.
And then
Okay.
the Forever Elegant side is the wedding part. We do weddings.
Okay. So you could actually, in theory, you could conceivably help almost anybody with life coaching, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So are you more apt to sit there and be sharing information about the life coaching or the wedding side of things? Depends on who's coming.
I'm definitely not going to sit there.
Good.
Probably would emphasize the life coaching side.
Okay. So what would be your goal if you had a booth there?
Just to, I think, talk to people and find out who they are, what's their story, and how do they want to be successful in whatever they're doing.
Okay. Now this expo is different than many because we're going to have retailers there. We're telling people, come do your shopping early. So and we have none of the retailers are here, which is such a bummer. However, yes. Oh, Mary, that's true. Mary Kay, you are. Okay, so that being the case, be really clear about what it is you're going to be selling, right? You have to sit there and really know who your target market is and what kinds of things you think people will be wanting to buy, especially if they're thinking in terms of holiday shopping. For those that have like clothing or Jeff over at Life's a Stitch and things like that, where you can do so many different things. You have to plan ahead. How are you going to use your space? Because you've got 6 feet this way and 6 feet this way. Okay, so that's the first thing is, what do you want to achieve? Some people want to sell product. I'm sure you as a Mary Kay rep would love to sell all sorts of things and find out other women who maybe would like to become regular customers and have them be purchasing from
right,
you.
it's sales and it's lead generation. I mean, it's a combination.
Exactly. Right, okay, and that's good. Some people are just doing, if you're a brand new business, you may be wanting to just tell people we exist. Yes, you want to have information about it, but you may have not quite so lofty a goal as to say, I want to get 15 new clients out of the deal. Some who have been going for quite a while are going to be looking for actual lead generation to see how many of these people can I turn into customers. The other thing that most people don't think about, but I would invite you to do so, is to be looking to see who you can meet that would be strategic partners. because sometimes, I usually say the people that come by your booth are gonna be suspects, prospects, or strategic partners. Suspects are the kind that come to your booth and they want your candy bars and they go, thank you very much, and they'll leave. Sometimes they'll suck the life force out of you, talking to you just because they're bored, but you know you're never gonna be able to do any business with them. And that you have to be careful about. Prospects, obviously, they're our favorites, but strategic partners are people who are trying to target the same people you are, but from a non-competitive angle. As an example, Tom with Pip Printing, it's a perfect strategic partnership for me, because he and I are both trying to reach the same kind of people, but he's not going to try to sit there and help develop their website for them or develop any of the marketing materials that drive traffic to the website. He would sure like to print them. All right?
At a good price for the top quality.
I'm sure that is. I have no doubt. So that's what I mean as far as not being competitive. Now, I will also tell you, sometimes it could be somebody who's in the same industry but a different niche. I had a woman that was a marketing consultant that also did web development when I was living up in the Northeast, but her thing was high-tech companies. And so she was really good at all that kind of stuff, knew how to deal with the industries, knew the kinds of things that they were going to want, the bells and whistles, etc., in their websites, and I had no interest in that whatsoever, and we flipped a coin. She didn't want the smaller guys. So she and I were referral sources for each other. And that's what you really want with strategic partnerships, are people that can be a referral source for you and you for them, but also people that there are times where you can sit there and do some marketing things together. You split the cost, you have double the amount of exposure because you're going to his database and my database, and it's a win-win for everybody involved. So we have to sort of be looking at those things too. Next thing is setting up the booth. Now, again, Caroline, you know I love you.
Yes.
But,
I love the buds.
well, because when I sat there and I said something about not having the table at the front, she went, well, we had all the tables at the front of the booth last time. So, this is what I'm going to draw you something real quick and dirty here. And I don't draw well. But this, let's say this is your space. You got 6 feet in, 6 feet across, and a 6 feet table. Most people think in terms of doing the table here, right? And you put your stuff all over it, and you either sit or stand behind it. Ta-da! And you try to catch people as they walk by. Is that about right? No, you're right. It shouldn't be. Because what you want to do is not put up any barrier between you and them. Put your table back here. Stand in front of it. Now granted, this looks disproportionately large, but you only have 6 feet. Are these tables about 6 feet here? So think about it. If I sit there and I have the table here, that's about how much space I'm going to have. However, you want to engage them and bring them in. You don't want anything between the two of you. This is why we have this stuff over here. We can't have a banner. Normally I would say put a banner up high so that people walking by can see your banner above the heads of the people who you're talking to or who are in your booth. We don't have that option. So you have to plan ahead a little bit. Now, you may or may not want to spend the money. If you have a banner and you want to put it on the front of your table, affix it. And by the way, there are not going to be tablecloths provided at this event. So you'll need to bring something to cover the tables yourself if you choose to have something covered.
You must.
Oh, you must?
That's a WinMock rule. You must have a table covered.
Okay, so we don't care what. It doesn't have to be made out of anything specific. Just cover the table. Okay, so now we know that. You didn't know that.
But they don't provide it.
But they don't provide it.
Right.
Honey, you can go to Walmart, it doesn't have to be expensive. Anyway, so yes, you can still sit there and tape your banner to the front of your table, okay? But this is why we brought you some other things to be thinking about. This is a newer thing that you're seeing nowadays here, which are vertical banners. And this sucker will sit there and roll back into its base. It has a case for it, etc. Are they cheap? Not really. You have to really balance between how often am I going to use it? Can I use it in my office or in my storefront and make use of it there, but also find that it's portable enough to take when I do a show? But this is one thing that gives you a lot of space, and it's up higher.
Let me throw something in.
Real fast.
We just have a new vendor for the banner stands and for these banners.
Right.
We can actually do it not only as a single side, but as a double side,
Okay. Now,
which will be.
and Pip is not the only one. Able Printing is a member. They can also do the verticals, as can Excalibur. as can Excalibur, so just
And
deal with
ink
it, and ink it.
And
So-
ink it.
So we have
And
four,
ink it.
we have four companies. I wanna be fair, I appreciate Tom bringing these so you can see
Absolutely.
them, but we do have four options for you within the membership here. This is another version of a tabletop one that you can get that makes it portable, but again, it makes it so that it stands up higher. This is the base of one of these, that's a tabletop one that you can get, that you can pull up to 3 or 4 feet, depending on what you want in that. So that's options. This is the other thing that I'm looking at, because one of the things you do not want to do is have all of your materials lying flat on a table, because people can't see it. And the odds are good that you're gonna get a lot of the people walking by, looking around, going, and taking off. So these are just some things to be thinking about. This is one, this is a metal one that we have, that we've used for years. The other thing, simple things, like if you have like a little sign or whatever, these little plastic things at Staples are just, they're peanuts. But they bring things up and make it vertical so that people can see it when they walk by. You can get these that hold 8.5 by 11 size. There is one that holds a business card size, and I can't find mine. This is one that holds things perfect size for the chambers. Even little ones that hold business cards. So you want to try to get things up and vertical. Plan ahead. Now, good example as to why you need to plan ahead. That white rack thing I have not used in 5 years. And I pulled it out today from the closet that it was in, thinking it would be just fine. I've moved since I used it last. It's all rusty. Make sure you look at your stuff. Plan ahead for this. I'm now going to have to paint it with some Rust-Oleum. So make sure you've got things right and ready to go. How are you going to decorate your booth? Your booth needs to reflect your business, your company, and it needs to tie into your website, because this is part of the branding. So make sure that whatever the color scheme is ties to what people are used to seeing for your company. For me, it's that reddish color, the burgundy color. So when I get a tablecloth, it's going to be a burgundy one so that it shows up and it's consistent, and everything on there will look consistent with the website. Make sure you do that for yourself. Plan ahead for these things. Oh, okay. What kinds of things have you guys used as enticements to get people to come into your booth?
The laptop I run a video on. Matter of fact, that was one of my questions, will we have electricity available?
Some booths will, some will not, and it'll be a first come, first serve. And I'm proud to say I was 001. I don't know how, do you remember the number, what, out of the 38 plus booths, how many of them will actually have electricity?
Everything that runs along the wall, so I
Okay.
think
Oh,
it's
so most of them.
most of them.
Okay, so it's like 26 or something like that.
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, and that's very important, because we're also going to have a screen there with PowerPoint, scrolling on there to show visuals as well. But as far as anything else, like candy,
I've used a basket with the giveaway where people have to leave their cards. That way you're getting their information as well.
what kind of giveaways do you give away?
Well, I don't, but I always ask and beg for cool things from other people.
Now, how cool? I mean, as an example, in getting ready for this, I've taught this class and written articles about it over the years many times. But I went online to see what was new. And you could tell that the articles were geared towards these big, huge, like, consumer electronics shows. And they're saying, we have a giveaway of an iPad. And I'm thinking, not giving away an iPad in November. Sorry, folks. But you want to have it be something that people will think, oh, I wouldn't mind having that. I'll give her my business card for that. Do you remember the kinds of things that you've had in the past?
Yeah, like I'll get it from vendors like wine and, gift cards and just
Okay.
things that, from other.
So be thinking about what kinds of things might you have, because the reality is you can have somebody come by, have a nice little chat with them, and have them leave and never get their business card and never really know who they are. And even if they say, I'm Debit Business Marketplace, if I don't give you a card and you've had, is it 3 hours? Right, the whole thing is 3 hours long to talk to people. You'll get home that night, and as you're soaking your feet, you're going to go, oh, who was that woman that came by? You won't remember. You need to come up with an incentive for them to give you their information. I would also recommend, like we have here, have little, you can do it like 4 on a piece of paper, have little pieces of paper people can fill out that includes name, company, at least phone number and email address. I personally am not that concerned about mailing address right at the jump, because if I have their web address is also nice to have, because then I can sit there and look up the conventional address if I need it. For those that don't have business cards with them or who run out, you want to make sure you make it easy for them to give you their information, okay? So that's another thing.
Dan,
Yes,
can I throw something in here? Something that I have done that has been very, very effective in working with people that I know that are gonna be vendors at an exposition, is that often, they will actually do a mailing to an existing.
I'm not there yet.
Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah.
That's okay, that's okay. Yeah, I know what I'm doing here, Tom, it's really okay.
Just talk-
I would also be looking at what kinds of things from an informational perspective are you gonna have there? For companies who have a new product or a product that they want to show, make sure that you have the space available to be doing demonstrations or to be letting the people that come by be able to sit there and touch and feel and see what it is you're talking about. If you were doing the wedding thing, that would be the time you would want to have something like that. For somebody like Life's a Stitch, or if you did the wedding thing or whatever, instead of having the table in the back, I might sit there and say, forget the table, bring in a lightweight bookshelf and put it along the back so you can have all different kinds of things showing up for people to see it so they can actually touch it in case they wanted to purchase it. Same with yours. You may want to sit there, if you have your table, see if you can find like a little short, and you can get those things pretty cheaply, where it'll have a few shelves on it that you can have a display. And again, up high, not all just sitting on a flat surface. But what kind of information do you want to have for them? If you have a brochure, if you have a DVD, that's nifty, but if they don't know what's on the DVD, that doesn't help much. We are going to have a TV screen that's going to have a scrolling PowerPoint presentation that will have visuals of the different websites that we have done, interspersed with other little pieces of information for people, so that it catches people's eyes as it's changing. It makes people go, oh, what's that? And that's always a good thing to have. Obviously, if you're going to be doing this, he's going to have some good signage there for people to see a lot of different options that are available. Okay? Watching the time.
More of that.
Then, we cannot leave it to the chamber to find all of the attendees. So consequently, you're very often. The trick to this, and it's not just the exhibitors, but it certainly includes the exhibitors, but everybody should be sending out something to all of their customers and their prospects, saying, we're going to be there, especially if you're an exhibitor, I should say, but we're going to be there. We hope you're going to come. This is going to be a great event. We've got almost 50 vendors. Some people will be selling things that you can buy for your Christmas shopping. There'll be some great things to eat. Even if you're just freezing.
No, I'm cold.
Okay, welcome to my world. But do that. I would do it 2 weeks out, and I would do it within a week of it to remind people. Oh, she's going to change the temperature for you.
She's sweet.
She's very sweet. Very nice. Thank you, Anna.
Okay.
But if every person that is hearing this and that reads this article were to do that, we would up our attendance at this thing dramatically. Do we have any idea how many people came as attendees last year? No ballpark, like 100, 400,
I don't know,
50,
probably in that range.
around 100? So we really want to get more than 100 if we can. It'd be really nifty if we could get the 300 to 400 range. I don't know if the parking lot can handle that,
Oh,
but,
yes.
oh, they can?
Yeah.
Okay, good.
It was different last year, it was more of a
Right.
business thing
It was
last
just
year.
business.
If you're opening it up, you should be able to draw in more.
Absolutely.
But we have to be proactive. We can't let the chamber have all the responsibility. And I know there's going to be an ad run and things like that as well,
Is the
right?
billboard on 40 gonna have it or not?
We could potentially do that, actually. Yeah. that'd be a
Cool.
great idea.
Good.
Will there be a way for us to know who exhibitors are so we can say, I shop at so-and-so and she's gonna have, Mary Kay,
That's true.
whatever.
There's 2 different things on this one that I was going to say. One is, yes, can we get a list of the other attendees so we can publicize that? But as well, do the attendees, are they going to need to sign in at the event and get a name tag?
we're working on that. We're trying to figure out
Please
how
do.
we're gonna do that.
Yeah, I would strongly recommend that.
We're probably at the front end of things when they come in, and we're trying to come up with a great giveaway that will encourage people to drop their business card in a bucket or fill out their name and the basic stuff, so that we can have a
Right.
comprehensive list of everybody that comes to the
And
door.
will that
and a
list
head
be,
count.
and will that list be provided to the exhibitors?
After the fact,
Absolutely.
absolutely.
Okay, and that's
Absolutely.
perfect, because that's a whole nother source, and that's the next seminar that she mentioned. We're gonna sit there and, you know, use a carrot a little bit, but next time we'll talk about what do you do with the people that you know you've had access to or that were there. But again, we'll get you that information so you'll know who the exhibitors are nearer the time, but use that information with your prospects and your customers, so, to sit there and entice them to come, because if that happens, it's better for all of us. And if we sit there and have 40 exhibitors, all getting 20 people a piece, that'd be nice, okay?
Got a
Yes.
question. Does it help, one of the things that we're thinking about doing is having an invitation created. So we'll be doing, the standard where it's a press release. We're gonna have a Facebook thing created so that we can get that out there and then everybody can post it out there.
And make sure all of us
Get it,
like the Facebook page.
like it, share it, get it all out there so that we can do that.
Right.
But, do you want,
What do you mean by an invitation?
well,
Printed?
that's what my question, I'll do a graphic for sure that will get out through, again, Facebook, that type of thing. Do we want that translated into something if folks want to actually, print something? On a
You
postcard,
could,
kind of thingy or
You
whatever?
could. I'm just, when we're dealing with smaller businesses, I really think digital as much as possible, rather than nothing against printing. Printing's really nice. However, printing and then mailing, those costs and envelope, whatever, that can get expensive. You can do that, and if you're gonna be an exhibitor, that can be worthwhile if you do it to the people that you really want to show, i.e. prospects you've been talking to, you just can't quite get them up over the top. Another time to get in there with a personal note on it. Don't just send it blank, but sit there and say, hope to see you there, Anna, or whatever.
Well, maybe anybody that signs up, you can just send it as a PDF or whatever to them.
Absolutely.
And then they
And
can
share it.
share it
Absolutely.
either on an email or
And you can put it
whatever.
on, if you have your own Facebook business page, put it on your business page. You can send that PDF, you can embed in an email and put your own personal note above it. But yeah, if we were all given that PDF document, or as a JPEG and a PDF, depending on how you're gonna use it, then yes, that'd be a great idea.
And it would all be sending out essentially the
But
same
make
thing
sure,
with that note.
make sure it's clear enough, though, that it is, yes, we have this thing about shopping, but it's not just shopping. So if you're not thinking, well, I want to go shopping,
But it's business to business.
it's business to business as well. So you have two different things, that the time and date are really prominent, so people can see it. I was talking with Caroline about the initial email we had going out earlier for the weekly one, and the thing that was the smallest was the date and time. It was like,
Thanks, Constant Contact.
oh yeah, they're fun that
We
way.
hear grumblings from her office periodically.
Punching the computer.
Not Caroline, surely not. Okay, so if we get that all going and you sit there, I actually go so far as to recommend to people, if you have a table, a dining room table or whatever, sort of set it up ahead of time and figure out what am I gonna have space for? We got in here today and went, ooh, how much space are we gonna have here? Because we're gonna be doing something similar in terms of having things up there. So this has been good for us to be able to figure out how much space am I actually going to have when I get in my booth. It's a whole lot better than showing up there, having all this wonderful stuff and then going, oh my God, it won't fit. Now what am I gonna do? So figure it out before the fact. So, who should be in the booth?
Not many people.
Not many people is correct. There was a time, and even at smaller expos that I've done, relatively speaking, but smaller than consumer electronics, forget the concept of having somebody in there just because they're attractive. I was going to say something socially or politically incorrect, but we all know what I'm talking about. No strippers, no nothing, Oh, honey, let me tell you, there was a Denver Chamber of Commerce Business After Hours Expo, and it wasn't actually strippers, but it was girls, clantily scad, very short skirts, very buxom and very low cut, trying to get men to stop by the booth. And it backfired soundly, which I was delighted to see. I have seen some that will go so far as to hire a magician or a caricaturist, different things like that. Nifty idea, not for our structure, is there's not enough space. If you sit there and have somebody doing something like that in your space, you have no room to sit and talk to a prospective customer. You need to have whoever it is in your organization who knows the most about what it is you guys do. So consequently, Tom needs to be in there, not the girl necessarily, or the person, I shouldn't say girl, that answers the phone. It used to be, you'd see these girls and they'd sit there behind the table and they'd be going, oh. That is not the image that you want to present. You want
Your sales force.
You want somebody, yes, but people who are used to being in person. Be very careful about people who are used to telemarketing and not used to face-to-face. I don't care if you feel like the living dead, smile. Because if you're just sitting there and look nice, you have one chance to make a good first impression. If you do in fact have something that has something monogrammed, I want to get Life's a Stitch. I don't know if we have other people that do that, but getting something monogrammed is lovely. But even if you don't go that far, have a professional sign, name tag.
Yes.
Have a professional one. The paper ones, not if you're an exhibitor. And they're not that expensive anymore. You can get these kind here, the magnetic kinds. So they don't have to, use a pin to go through your fabric. And I think it was $7 or something. So you don't have to spend a bunch of money, but be as professional as your organization is, because you are the reflection of your company. All right? So we got that going. Pardon?
I said, I just hope I have a good hair day.
You and Nemo. At least you have hair. I mean, let's look at things that the glass is half full, not half empty. So, how do you deal with getting people to come stop by and talking with them? Do you know how to separate the wheat from the chaff? Anybody?
This is a tobacco market here, they brine.
I really recommend coming up with some questions that you can ask for somebody who is nosing about. Oh, she's getting her name tag? What a good girl. Have some questions. Figure out some questions that you can ask somebody that will help to pre-qualify them. Because you need to know where to spend your time. If you have this small a space, and let's, as an example, my husband Don and I are going to be at the booth. If he's talking to somebody, and there was a guy in Denver, I'll never forget, his name was Jack, and he would come to networking events and expos and things like that. I think it was called borderline personality disorder. I think we figured that out many years after the fact. But when he caught your eye, he would talk at you incessantly. And people would get the deer in the headlight look on their faces because they couldn't figure out how to get away from him. And that was my goal. I mean, that was my purpose, was to go over there and say, hey, Jack, can you give me a second? I need to sit there and have you do the people would look at me and say, thank you. So there are going to be people that just want to chit-chat away. Be very careful about that, about spending that time. But if you can find 2 or 3 questions that you can just in conversation be able to ask, it can help to pre-qualify how much time should I spend with this person. Conversely, expos are not the time to be selling unless you have a retail booth. This is a time to be, this is the ultimate great big wonderful networking event. So you need to sit there and make some good connections and talk with them enough to find out, is this a prospect, is it a suspect, or is this a potential strategic partner? And set things up for it down the road. Get it far enough in that communication cycle where you have a commitment that you're going to talk and you're going to call them on such and such a day. I think our expo's on a Thursday, right? And so you're going to be calling them on Monday because you're going to need Friday to sit and go through this stuff. So you're going to call them Monday or Tuesday to set up a time to get together in person and go over things in more detail and see how you can help each other. But don't try to do it and make the sale at the expo. Networking is about developing new relationships. It's from those relationships that you'll get new business. But don't try to do it all at once right there. You've only got 3 hours. If we have 300 people, let's be optimistic. We're just going to triple what we did last year. There's a lot of people coming through, you need to know who they are. Now, if you are at all like I am, which is menopausal, make notes on the back of the business cards when you talk to people. Put something down there that will jog your memory about what was it either that I said I would do or send. Am I gonna call them? Who do they know that I need to sit there? Anything. Had a blue flowered shirt, whatever. But you wanna make sure you remember who these people are,
The other thing, if you have the paper where they're going to fill out their information,
right?
and let's say Mary Kay, whatever, are they interested in the makeup end? Are they interested in this
Absolutely,
line? Are they
absolutely.
interested in this line?
Yeah,
And
exactly,
that
all
way-
those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, at the same time, this is not something I have done, but I know somebody who did do it that way. If you're going to write on there, smells like trash, hasn't washed their hair in 6 weeks. I mean, let's get real, there are some things you're gonna remember. Don't write stuff like that when they're standing with you. I have seen it done where a girl sat there and said, fat as a house. She wrote it on the card and the woman went, oh, thank you, and took the card and walked off, as well she should have. Even if that's what you're gonna put, if that's the way you think of the person, don't do that where they can see it. Be careful, all right? The other thing I was gonna say is, that I see too often, don't ever leave your booth unattended, period, no exceptions. I don't care if you're walking around like this, find somebody that you know to say, can you please just sit here? Because if somebody's coming by and they're intrigued, and another person is there saying, Deb's gonna be back in like 3 minutes, she had to run to the ladies' room, that's not gonna upset them, and if they're interested, they'll wait, and hopefully the person will sit there at least chat enough. But if they see nobody in your booth, it looks horrible. It also looks terrible when you leave the expo early. Don't do it. Now, if everybody cleared out, this thing goes till 7, if everybody had cleared out and it was totally dead at 6:30, fine, because everybody's gonna do that. Chances of that happening are very, very remote. Okay? So, we sit there, we have our booth all designed, we have all this kind of stuff. What kinds of things might you have to share with them? Now, some call them tchotchkes, some call them swag, add specialties. We have lots of different ideas. And I do sort of recommend having something that's lower end that you can give to anybody that comes by and have enough quantity to handle that. But I usually, depending on what kind of company you are, I would have a few things, maybe 20, that are a step above. They're just a little bit nicer. So if you've had a good conversation with somebody and they're really excited about sitting down and talking with you, give them something a little bit nicer to remember you by. So, I've got some examples of things. Gee, anybody's got pens? Pens are cheap. These kinds of things, having little Post-it notes where you personalize them. They're nifty, but what you want to be thinking about is, what can I give somebody that they will keep and use that will help to keep the name of my company in their consciousness, in their face. These are really cool, but you use them up and then they're gone. So, same thing, printers oftentimes will make little notepads and things like that. That's nifty, but when the paper's gone, if you haven't done your homework well in terms of reinforcement, you're going to forget which printer it was that sat there and made those for you. Some people there, and I would say, anybody with if you're going to have any retailer or any person that's going to have a bag, have somebody have one near the front. Place them strategically. But if you're going to sell something, make sure that you have a bag that has your name on it. You might as well sit there and have people walking around advertising for you. It's like a little walking billboard, okay? And people really like to have bags, because let's get real, it's a little bit like adult Halloween trick-or-treating, because they're going to go around, they're going to be collecting the candy, they're going to be collecting the pens and whatever, and the candy's the real big one. But you know, things like that, and they're going to be collecting information about people. So if somebody, and certainly more than one, have a bag, if you're going to have a bag, have a good one. Have your name on it. Okay? Now, if you're a restaurant, have menus. That's not bad. Now, I'd be sitting there. Oh, the other thing I was going to mention about that has to do with retailers. But anybody who's going to be a retailer, come up with an expo special. Whether you have something that has a special price that's just for this expo. So if somebody's willing to make a commitment, say, yeah, I'll do this, and if you do this, you get 20% off this order, or however you want to work that. But if people see sale, expo special, things like that, and if you're going to sit there and hand out these, like a menu, if you're with a restaurant or the caterers or whatever, have them put something on there in some kind of a color saying, mention this expo and receive such and such off of your next order or your next time, excuse me. Okay, so, functionality. Cups, bottle, what do you call these things? Koozies? Those kinds of things are neat. That's another pad of paper. Magnets, be very, very careful. Magnets are great if you're going after consumers, because we can put these on our fridge. Although, if any of you have stainless steel appliances, you'll find it doesn't always stick to those. Interesting things, since you're thinking it's stainless steel, it ought to stick to everything, it doesn't. However, businesses are really hesitant about having magnets, because if they have this anywhere near a computer, it can sit there and wipe out their hard drive. So be very careful. If you're thinking of having a magnet, make sure you know who you're giving it to and how they're going to use it. These kinds of things I love. Letter openers. I realize we don't get as much mail as we used to. We have a lot more that comes in electronically, but these are handy. And this is something that I thought was cool. And what this is for is if you're doing something on a computer, and when I'm doing things like creating Excel spreadsheets for something, it'll hold a piece of paper so I can actually see what it is. Just nifty, different little interesting things that people, and here's the corporate identity. I don't think US West exists anymore, but it has your corporate identity on it. Another thing you can do, little flash drives. These are really handy, and we always end up wanting one and can't find it easily. You can get these made up with your corporate identity on them. Not terribly expensive, easily done, but very valuable to people. And then if you want to get a little bit cuter, and I don't understand mini backpacks, but they are very popular. And so you can sit there and have this, that has that in it with a zipper on the front, and if you really want to go high end, this is an insulated zipped bag that Wake Forest hands out. So this would be the kind of thing where if you have somebody that you think's a hot prospect, you give them something nicer that you can do with that kind of a thing. But find something, if you can. Oh, here's one. This little binder clips, right? You put that on there, and I don't know if you can see it, but there's the corporate identity right here on that little piece. Go online, go to the members of the chamber, and you'd be amazed at the kind of stuff that you can put your name on, or your corporate identity on. And nowadays, the big thing is, at least have your corporate identity and your web address. Do you all have websites, please? Yes? Good. Have your website on there, because they can get your phone number and your mailing address from there if they need to. Watch the time. Okay, so, when you get done with this wonderful event, and you pack it all up and you take it back to your office, whether it's in your home or not, Friday, after soaking your feet a little bit and going through the business cards and seeing who do I have here, what kind of follow-up do I have, make sure you hang on to those business cards. Keep them together so that you know which ones were from this expo, because when you follow up with them, you want to make sure you can be specific with them and whatever notes you have on the back. And at the next class, we'll talk about A, how do you follow up with these people and try to turn them into customers or strategic partnerships? And B, how do you incorporate it into the rest of the stuff that you do from a marketing perspective? Okay? So, questions? Yes?
Not so much a question, but if I'm not mistaken, they have 8-foot banquet tables at WinMock, don't they? They don't have these little small ones.
They weren't narrow, but they weren't very long.
They weren't?
In fact, I think they were
6
5 feet, not 6 feet.
Oh, okay. I thought they had standard banquet tables.
Yeah, they're not very big.
Yes, sir. Back to the article. Oh, yes. This article here that I have for all of you guys goes over a lot of the stuff that we talked about today. It's got more information than what we talked about, and it goes into more detail. So please make sure you have one of these before you leave today. Again, you want to have stuff like this. You're the people that come to your pass those around. If you don't know anything about us and you want to, We'll pass these around as well. These are just general information. Again, this is the kind of stuff you need to be thinking about with your business. How do people know who you are? You know the name, but what about that? What besides that? Now, pit printing, that's easy. You got your franchise, you get stuff that they create for you, but most of the others have to sit there and figure out, how do we promote ourselves? So there's that. Oh, one of the things that some people do, and we're gonna have a bunch of food people there, which is gonna be great. So, which makes me say two things. One, that's gonna be nifty, so if we do get starving, I can send Dawn, and Dawn can send me, and we'll go over and get a little schnitzel. But it also, I tend to not recommend having things like mini muffins and homemade cookies at your booth, because they're messy. If you're gonna get something, you can get little candies done with your logo on the packaging of it. You can get M&Ms in your corporate color and your logo on it now. I mean, it's crazy what you can do. Get things that are neat, that can be put into a bag or a purse, where it won't be getting messy, and leave the yummies to the vendors who are there from bakeries and different caterers and companies and things like that, so that they make sure that they know that we're supporting them and not trying to take things away from them. But keep it neat. Yes, sir.
You were mentioning, stacking the booth at all times.
What else is in here? Hold on a second.
Of-
We're gonna be talking to a lot of people and shaking a lot of hands. If you wanna take home leads but no germs, here. And you can do it so that it has your name on it. And it's a great excuse to go around and talking to all the vendors. At the same time, if your competition's there, you darn well better know what they're doing. We all have to know what our competition's doing. You know, we do. So make sure you do have some time in there where you can do that. And some people don't have the option of having a second person to be in the booth with them. Some people will say, have friends come and hang out in your booth, because nobody wants to be going into a booth alone. I'm not so worried about that with this small a show and this small a space. I don't think that's going to be that big an issue. If you were consumer electronics, that'd be a different story. And you priming the pump in that particular way might be handy. I don't think we'll run into that. But you know, the other thing to be thinking about is if you want more space, get two. The booths are not that big, but they're also not that expensive. Get a double space, or see if you can find another company where you are complementary, like you and I were talking about, and share a double space so that you can sort of expound on things. And again, that's the partnership piece again. So if you have yours with Mary Kay and you know somebody that's a hair salon, maybe the two of you could sit there and say, fine, we'll get ours together, do it as a double space, and have the two together. That anything that you would need to sit there and make you look more beautiful. Those kinds of partnerships can be very, very valuable, especially with a trade show like this. Anybody else? Yes, yeah.
Are the tables going to be divided by dividers at all? No. So it's just gonna be the table and whatever you bring.
That's right. And that's going to be tricky. I mean, I mentioned to Caroline about being sensitive to where do you put the food type people compared to the ones who are, or the retailers compared to those of us who are just service providers. Because if you have somebody who's going to have an overflow and people are going to go crazy to buy their stuff or to get their food, you don't want people crowding in front of somebody else's booth so that nobody gets to see who's there. You know, and that's one of the things that they will be sensitive to too.
But you could also be creative, since this is a Christmas event, to
Holiday.
separate your space.
We have Jewish people in North Carolina, don't we? Okay, just checking.
Yes.
I don't know about Kwanzaa, but you never know.
But you
Yes.
know what I'm saying, to
Yeah.
be creative, to separate yours from the other without infringing on somebody else's space.
So you could sit there and have a little garland. No, you can't, because you can't take.
You can be creative.
Now, I would also tell you, when it comes with creative, there are screens that you can get, like 3-panel screens, sort of like how this actually bends in the middle or whatever. If you wanted to, you could sit there and get one of those to put at the back of your booth if you wanted to sit there. Because normally what I would tell you on a conventional kind of location would be to sit there and either have some fabric or something that would give a backdrop and putting your banner up high. Well, if you have a screen of some sort at the back of your booth, you could sit there and go to Joann's Fabrics or whatever, get some cheap fabric to sit there and make it look a little different. You want to figure out a way to be unique. You want to make sure that it catches people's eyes and they notice you. They know who you are. If you have something like one of those screens And I'm still looking. I haven't found it under $100 yet online. I'm still looking to see if there's a way I can find one at a used furniture place or whatever. That gives you more flexibility of putting visuals up on a wall, since we can't put it on the wall there. If you did anything like that, as an example with the things we have here, make sure your visuals are big enough to be seen by somebody just walking by. As an example, don't sit there and have a picture that's a 5x7, have it 11x17. Get it laminated. Staples doesn't charge that much to do that. It's worth the investment to have something that's a larger size to catch somebody's eye, their eye. You can do that if you get one of those screens where you can put things up. You can also have sayings or words, but again, make it big enough to be seen. Now, one of the things I will tell all of you guys, part of the reason for my wanting to make sure you sign in, anybody who's at a class, I always give away some time. So you are all entitled. I will give any of you an hour's time to talk with you. If you decide you want to do a booth, we can talk about what would you put in there, what you need to have. You can show me what you do have. I can tell you, I think there's any kind of adjustments you might want to make or whatever. Holland, I'm happy. The most important thing you have in your booth is going to be your attitude. Mm-hmm. A smile goes so far. Don't be doing this. This is so off-putting. Don't be eating, and don't be eating, don't be texting, don't be eating in your booth. I mean, that kind of stuff is just like, everybody goes, I don't think so. Yeah, texting is a big one. I mean, I think we've all gone into a little mini mart type store before, and somebody's on the phone or can't stop texting or whatever. And so we're like, hello, I'm here. And you just feel very unimportant. So just those things. And again, you'll find that stuff in the article as well. Would you like to make your announcement, Carol?
I was just gonna say,
I did.
I was just gonna say, if everybody that's here and the people that you know that would be interested in doing the expo or not, your gift ideas. So community college, there's some gift ideas you can do. Ink it. What kind of stuff do you have? Because what we're gonna do is we're gonna kick it off our campaign on Facebook. So we'll be doing for women. So we would have boutiques and gardening and all that kind of stuff. So send me a list of 5 or 6 things that you have to offer, and we're going to get that out there for you. Okay?
All right, help me understand what these things are that we're going to offer for what purpose?
Things for gifts. So it's another way for like
that you're going to be selling or have available at the
exactly.
Expo? Okay.
For example, like Stillman's Hardware. People don't realize that you can get the big green egg, the grill there. They don't think about that. So that's one thing that they would want to tell us. So get that kind of information to us, and we'll get that on Facebook as well.
This is partially our whole campaign for the holiday season. So we're going to be not only doing this expo, but we're going to be doing a large campaign that's couched around our I Shop Davie and giving folks all sorts of ideas of what they can do and how they can get all their gift needs locally in our businesses. So that's part of what those gift ideas will be as well. And that's going to be a very fun, slashy campaign that we're going to be doing. So that's what we're looking for.
Do you have a list of who's going to exhibit?
We'll get that out there.
Yeah,
We've only got a few, so as soon as we get that, we'll let you know. Okay. All right. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deb, so much for
Yeah,
coming.
thank you.